Namaste. I'm Saroja Gullapalli from Melbourne, Australia. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the PMC Global platform. Today, we are about to embark on the journey of episode 11 of Wisdom Sharing of the Untold Story of Sita. Before we start this session, I would like to say my thanks to Brahmarshi Pitamaha Patriji, Dena Madam, and to all my beloved viewers on this channel. Before we start, may I request you all to go into 2 minutes meditation. I request you to cross your feet, clasp your fingers, place them in your lap, gently close your eyes, and be with your breath. Be with your breath, masters. As you are with your breath, I request you to travel deep within yourself and try to connect to your consciousness. As you connect to your consciousness, may I request you to invoke the energies of Sita Ma and Lord Hanuman and request them to join us on this platform today. Gently rub your palms together and place them on your eyes. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly remove your palms and open your eyes gently. As we start our episode 11 today, at the end of the last episode, we were talking about how Rama's elder sister Shanta had come to visit Sita Ma in her ashram, in her hermitage, and has requested Sita Ma if she could stay to help her with delivering her babies. So starting our episode from here, Mata was too happy for Shanta Ma to stay back and help her in the delivery. And so Shanta stayed through the labor and the delivery, and she was the first one to hold the babies when they were born. And that's the time when Soma says that she has seen how close Mata and Shanta were. They spent time together like sisters. Sita Ma considered Shanta as an elder sister. And they also had a lot of catch up like true sages. And during their 14-year exile, Mata had spent time with so many women sages. And after the exile, she was missing them quite a lot in her life. And now having Shanta here had brought all those memories back. And they could spend much time together in meditation and in spiritual matters. So they would go on for hours sometimes, totally absorbed in the discussion. After the birth, after some time, Mata's sister Urmila came from Ayodhya to be with her. And then Shanta thought that she could leave now that Mata had company or someone to look after. And Mata was so emotional when she had to bid farewell to Shanta. She said, "I'm so blessed to have you as my sister and my friend." And Shanta said to Mata, "This world is blessed to have you, but one day the world will know who you are," because Shanta totally realizes how people in Ayodhya were totally overlooking all the achievements of women and including what she had done, what Shanta had done for Dasharatha. So hence she said, one day the world will know who you are. So they said goodbye, and finally Soma sees that Shanta turns back and then just goes into the forest. And then later that night, Mata says to Soma, the world will forget Shanta. All that her brothers did, Rama, Lakshmana, everyone will remember that. But I will always remember and cherish her. What she has brought to this family with her spiritual wisdom will never be known, but this will bring a lot of blessings into the future generation. And later Soma asked Mata, she's going alone such a long distance on foot in forest. Will she be safe? And then Mata says, Soma, you have no idea. She has many mystical powers. She's a true sage. And after all, she's Rama's sister. So why should she be scared or worried? So that is the bit that we see Shanta in the story. And it was not long after Sri Ram came to meet his children. And Soma says the joy he felt, holding his children in his arms was unexplainable. No words could capture. And so this is the story that Soma is telling Anasuya and her mother. And every time the story ends for that night, as we know, Soma is very kind enough to feed Anasuya and her mother before they leave for the night. So that night story was finished here, and the next morning again, Soma continues the story. So Soma says, it took her many years to understand why Mata had been called to the forest and why she had to undergo this penance, so much of penance. When Soma says penance, even staying in this ashram, leaving Ayodhya, is like a tapasya, because and what Soma says was, it's more difficult for Sri Ram to endure the separation because at least here Mata has the two little ones, whereas Sri Ram, he's all by himself there, and he felt the separation far more keenly. And Mata knew this, that how much Sri Ram was suffering. She always wanted to be with Rama, to prepare the right food for him, like any wife would do for her husband whom she loves, to ensure his health and peace of mind, and to discuss with him when he needs some help in the decision for the kingdom. And this is what normally happens between Maharajas and Maharanis. But in this case, Sri Rama is left all alone to do those tasks. So these were the times when Mata used to really feel for Sri Rama. But otherwise, she realized her responsibility while she was in the forest. So then Soma continues that after Mata, recovered from the birth of the two boys, Love and Kush, then she started spending a lot of time in forest, exactly like what she used to do in Mithila. And Soma used to carry the little babies all along with her. And she would see, Mata would just get down on the floor to just see a little creature. And then she would just pick that little creature and show it to Soma and say, look how precious it is. And every time Mata used to touch a creature or any flora or fauna, there was great glow of joy on Mata's face. And all kind of creatures would come to the cottage where Mata was, and Mata would welcome all of them, taking such delight, different colors, little beings, crawling, creeping, all kind. And Mata, not only the little creatures, Mata used to look into the eyes of large creatures, and Soma knew that she was communicating with them in unspoken languages. And Mata says, this is very important, my dear friends. This is where it's called communication through images. It's not through thoughts or through messages. So here Mata, the communication Mata is doing with these big creatures is, Mata once told Soma, this is called a visual exchange, and Mata could see the pictures in their mind, and then she could send the pictures. This is how they communicate. This is how the communication happened between the creatures and Mata, not through words or not through thoughts, but through visual images. And this is one kind of communication. You may read in many other spiritual books. I have been reading Anastasia recently, and this is exactly, in one of the volumes in Anastasia, there was this communication through visual images, and you can see, this age-old wisdoms. They are they're coming, they're passing by from generation to generations, but it's only that many of us are totally unaware of it. So it's a very important thing here, what Mata told Soma, that she was trying to communicate through visual exchange or exchanges of images. Um, so then Soma speaks of an incident that one day they were going through the forest, and the way she looked at Mata was showing so much love. She would stop everywhere and talk to everyone with so much love and absorbing into that. So she says, you're just imbuing the whole natural world with so much love. You always have had love, Mata, but I've never seen this kind of intensity before. And then Mata says, why does that surprise you, Soma? These animals, these trees, they're all manifestation of love. In fact, the whole existence is manifestation of love. For no other reason, these things are have come into the being. Everything around us, they are a reflection of love that sustains the universe. And we have talked about this before. Many times Sri Ram has said this to Mata, that, because of you, this whole universe is sustaining, and because of the love that flows through Sri Rama, this whole universe is sustaining. So that's exactly what Mata is saying, that what all we see around us, they are purely manifestation of love, whether we see them in form of trees or animals or whatever it is. Without love, there would not have been any manifestation even possible. And Mata says sorrowfully that, once upon a time, humanity knew about this, but it's all too quickly being forgotten. And when people block the channels of love that flow between them or flow between them and the nature, um, then all this gets forgotten. So it's the love, it's the love that keeps everyone going. And Mata says that it's her greatest desire to prevent this from happening. So prevent what from happening? To prevent the flow of love, the block, So Mata says that that's her desire, that there should not be any block in the flow of love. And she says to Soma, we must saturate the world with more love, Soma. And that's our soul task. She's not even saying it's my soul task. She's saying our soul task. So then Soma said, is that why you're being called to the forest, Mata? And Mata laughs and says, Soma, you know all the reasons why I've been called, because every discussion I've had with all these sages, you've been there. But then she says, would you prefer to be in palace? Not that Mata doesn't know, but for a second she asks, and Soma says, Mata, I'm happy wherever you are. I would follow you into the darkest corners of the universe if you would permit me. And Mata says, you've always followed me. Wherever I have gone, you've been there, Soma. And not only now, it will always be that way. Um, and then Soma says to Anasuya that in the days to follow, she was so happy because she heard this from Mata's mouth, that in Mata's own voice, that wherever Mata will be there, Mata has gone, she's been there, and it will always be that way. So Soma says, I knew that was the way, but it was very good to hear Mata's affirmation. Um, she says that I never expected that Mata will ever say that. But when Mata said it, it was a great joy for me to remember that even in the future, wherever Mata will be there, I will be there. And then Mata explained to Soma later that it was only the power exercised by Ravana over this natural world that had imbalanced the whole earth, and also the weapons that they had used. We have discussed about all this during the Great War that was bringing the imbalance. And some of the weapons that Rama had used in that war with Ravana had never been used before. And because of the ill effects that would cause to the earth plane, and now it had been used. So the Mother Earth was seeing that effects. Um, and Mata says that Ram had very carefully used those weapons. For a long time, both Mata and Ram were avoiding the war, but we all know how the whole thing went. Ravana could never come to reasoning, and they had to use the weapon. But Ram used it with very extreme caution, says Mata. But even then, the Mother Earth was still reeling under the effects of those weapons. And Mata says that this will take a long time for Mother Earth to heal from the effects of the weapons. But they had to use the weapon for Mother Earth because there was so much imbalance Ravana was causing. And then Mata also told Soma that many weapons that were used, Mata, all the effects that were coming from the weapon, Mata can't counter all the effects, but she can soothe the pain that's inflicted because of those weapons. She can bring that effect down with her love. That's why Mata is sending all this love with her love and hope to bring back the imbalances to normal. And Mata says this may take long, and it may also take well into the future. And Mata, when she's looking far ahead in time, and Mata is assessing in her mind, how long this is going to take. And that's when Soma says, looking at Mata, I understood that it was Mata's work to heal the damage that had been done before and during the war. So what was before we have seen, before the war, what was Mata's work? To go inside Ravana and to bring that change, which Mata did. And during the war itself, Mata was sending all her love to Sri Ram's army. So though Sri Ram's role was to plant the seeds for flourishing of the new civilization, Mata was trying to heal this world, heal the Mother Earth, heal the damage before and during the war. And now, even after the war, we can see, Mata's work is non-stop. So this is what we are seeing here. What Mata's work is all unseen work. It can't be seen, or you can't be measured with the so-called three-dimensional achievement kind of thing. It's not a war. It's not something that you can measure. That's why Mata's work is called the unseen work, because all the work that Mata did was to heal the unseen realms, the imbalance that was being caused in the nature. How could people see? It would take ages for people to know what the effects would be on the forest. What would be the effects of the weapon on Mother Earth? Through love, Sita Ma was trying to bring back that balance. And even the work that she had done prior to the war was all in the internal realms of Ravana, in the nature, in the Mother Earth. That's why it's always said the unseen work of Sita Ma. Like how the title of the book is Untold Story of Sita Ma. It is untold because the work is unseen. My dear friends, we need to understand the connection, why it was untold. It was untold for two reasons. Number one, because, as I said, most of the work that Mata did was in the unseen realms or the inner realms, which cannot be seen with naked eyes. To see the work that Mata did, you have to be equally evolved. All the sages, all the women sages or men sages could see what Mata had done. But for a common man, it would not be accessible. So for a common man, it was unseen work. If you remember what Mata said at one time, which I shared, I think it was episode 9, where Mata says that all the work for the benefit of the humanity that has always been done is away from the ears and eyes of humanity. So that means a common man cannot see or hear all the good work that's being done for humanity. And what was Mata doing? Mata was doing for generations to come, not only good for the current generation, but for many more generations to come. So of course that was unseen work, could not be seen or heard by a common man. So because that is unseen, it cannot be told. So that became Untold Story of Sita. What was the second reason? Second reason was, as we always mentioned, it was the cycle of time. And we knew as the Earth would be moving away from the center of the gravitational center of the galaxy, galactic center of gravitation, then we knew the time would come where the the women would go into the background. Um, so the feminine energy would be descending. And at that time, we were slowly moving on from Treta Yuga and the start of Dwapar Yuga. And so all the achievements done by the women sages and great people like Sita Ma were all kind of being going into the shadow of time. So though some work was seen, it wasn't put forward because of the cycle of time and because of what we learned in that cycle of time. So that was one reason. And the second reason was because such great works are always unseen and unheard by the common man's faculties. So I just thought I mentioned that because that's one of the inner messages that we must understand behind all this. So now we go to Love and Kush. So the two beautiful twins were growing up, and Mata was fully immersed in caring them. Sri Ram would come from time to time, and these were very happy years, you know. Slowly, though Mata was fully busy in taking care of the twins, you know how it is. Looking after two is always exponentially more work than looking after one child. Mata was fully immersed. And as soon as the children could crawl, Mata would take them to explore the forest. So the moment they started crawling, Mata took them to forest floor, and they would crawl in the forest, pick up little creatures, and they would touch every plant. And Mata wanted them to feel, you know, feel how was nature around them, to inculcate love in them for the nature. And that could only happen when they could start being a part of the nature at a very early age. And that is how Mata wanted to bring her two children. And she also wanted them to develop courage and strength. So she would let them, you know, encounter large forest creature in her presence. You know, she would be there and they would stand in front of big creatures, and she would let them climb rocks and boulders and trees and do whatever adventure they wanted. But she would be there overseeing them. And then for Soma, she would be worried sometimes Mata is letting them do everything. And then Mata would say, they are Ram's children. They must know what their potential is. So she was giving them an education of courage and strength. And she thought they are royal children, they're Ram's children. They should know their potential. If they are kept safe at home, they will never know what they can do. So this was the way she was bringing up children openly, you know, fearlessly. Um, Such a beautiful way of bringing children and making them part of the nature around. Uh, so as the time was passing, the children were growing up. Slowly, people started visiting Mata with their problems and questions, and people would come, you know, asking, "We're not able to find this particular medicinal plant, Ma," because people knew that Sita Ma was there, and she was full of knowledge, and not only about inner realm knowledge, but about the nature. So they would all come and say, "We can't find this plant, Mata. Can you help us?" So Mata would go with them looking for that. And sometimes, you know, the plant they were looking for, Mata would look for them and say, no, it has completely disappeared. But instead of that, you can use some other plants. And this is what Mata kept sharing with Soma. And this is such an important thing, which I quite liked what Mata shared here. She says, you know, as the condition of the forest keep changing, it's not only in Treta Yuga, this is right for any yuga. This earth, Mother Earth, is so thoughtful with changing times, with changing nature. She's always recycling her species. So Mata says that because of the changing times, the beauty of Vasundhara Ma is, you know, suddenly there could be a particular medicinal plant, and Vasundhara Ma knows that its potency has begun to weaken. So it will allow that species to die off. Instead of that, something else will come, a new variety, which is of much better value. So with the changing conditions, with the changing human health, with the changing nature's surrounding, Vasundhara Ma is always tuned to what humans require, what does the nature require, and she will come up with a new variety of a plant which is rightly suited for that time. Friends, we think that we are living on earth and because we can't feel the soul of the earth, we think it can't communicate to us, so we don't know what's happening. But doesn't need to communicate through words. Mother Earth can always feel the pulse. We are living on we're living on her. So she can feel our soul, she can feel the nature soul. Mothers, do children have to tell mothers what they need? No, mothers can feel the requirement, and that's what Sitama is saying. That's how new species of trees and new species of plants constantly coming up. Um, and I quite like this description when this one of the villagers come and ask and say, we can't find this plant, and Mata goes along with them. It's not like she's just advising them. She goes along with them, looks for the plant. Oh yes, that species is gone. Yeah, but there's another species now. And not only that, she's explaining, Soma, why that species has died and why this new species has come up. With the changing times, Vasundarama is capable of wiping out a species because they are no longer good for that time, and instead bringing up something else. But Vasundarama may do all that. But people should have the capability and knowledge to understand that. That is what is lacking. Vasundarama is trying to communicate to us. We don't know how to understand that language. Such a bad state of affair, my dear friends. After a few days, so this is all the life of Mata and Love and Kush in the forest that Soma is trying to tell us how Mata used to, how Mata was so busy helping people out who used to come with so many problems to her. And one day, Seth Chandrika. You remember Seth Chandrika when Mata and Sri Ram started their exile? They go to Chitrakoot first, and then they go to Panchavati. And in Panchavati, they come across this Seth Chandrika, whose husband has been lured by Shurpanakha in the form of Maya, and then he's seen dead in the river. So in Godavari. So this is the same Chandrika who talks to Mata, gets her feet on the ground after all that chaos has happened in her life. And then she started her own ashram. And Mata, before she comes back to Ayodhya, people remember, Mata goes to Chandrika and says, your husband is going to come in the form of a boy who is lost in the forest, and you have to accept him and adopt him as your son. Remember the discussion? So now after that meeting, Chandrika has come now to see Mata, and she comes with her young son. And Mata is so happy to see her and very touched that, she has undertaken this long journey on her own with the child, because they have come from Panchavati to almost this hermitages which is near Ayodhya. So she's so happy that Chandrika has come all the way with her son to see her. And Chandrika says, why would I not come, Mata? You have given me the great blessing of a son. And then Mata looks at this young boy, and she knows that in the last incarnation, this boy was her husband. Since he was a good man, but he had this pride that he was a great man, and it got lured by Shurpanakha, who brought this weakness out of his pride and his ego. But he has learned his lesson. In the future, he will again have some tests. He will have tests. Like how we had tests last time through Shurpanakha. Again, there will be a character test when he grows older. But this time he will not be tempted because he has learned his lesson. And Chandrika, he won't abandon you, but he will follow the ascetic path. And he'll follow this till the end of his life. And he will achieve the realization that he could not achieve in his last birth. Chandrika is so happy that, her husband has come back to her. And that love that she always had for her husband, she is able to pass that love to her son. And this love is beyond the material love of, this love is not a love between a husband and wife. This love is from one person to another person. It doesn't matter if that person has come in the form of a husband or a son. And then Chandrika says to Mata, I can never express how much gratitude I feel for you, because you have given me so much support and a guidance for my forward life. And Mata was so happy that Mata says, it gives me joy to see how much clarity of love you have. Why Mata says clarity of love? She says it's not shadowed by personal desire, but is pure and conditional. So Chandrika didn't say that I want my husband back in the form of my lover or my husband. No, Even if he came in the form of a son, she's got pure and unconditional love. It was not tainted by any personal desire. And that's why Mata says, I'm so happy to see that clarity of love you have. And she says, you're a model of forgiveness. And this forgiveness is because she's forgiven her husband after her husband has abandoned her in his last life. So she says to Chandrika, you've forgiven your husband's soul, and you never lost your self dignity. You kept doing your practice. You established your ashrama. You did your spiritual practice. And she says it's your love that has given him this opportunity to come back in this life to you, and so that he can rectify the mistakes that he did in his last life. So she says to Chandrika, do not falter on your path, and in the time to come, people will look up to you, and you're going to bring so much benefit to this world. And Mata sees, Chandrika stays with her for some time, and then just before she's going, she wants to ask some questions. So Mata says, what is it? And she says, Mata, I feel very saddened that you've been separated from Sri Ram. And all the rumors that I'm hearing that Sri Ram has sent you away. And she says, I feel so unhappy. Why must you suffer? You are the essence of purity and goodness. This is what you have done to everyone. Good. Why should you suffer? Everyone is saying that Sri Ram has sent you away. And this was the first time Mata heard this version of what people were talking, rumors. She says, what? Sri Ram didn't send me away. So she says to Chandrika, first of all, there is no separation between us. Those who see, whoever is seeing a separation between me and Sri Ram, they're not seeing the truth, because if I and Ram were not one, then we would not have taken this test. This is a test. This is a curse. How did they take the curse? Because Narayana took it, and then Sri Mahalakshmi was happily accepting, because she and Narayana are one and the same. So that's what she's saying. If we were not one, I would not be here. And he is as much in me as I am in him. So it doesn't matter physically we are separate, but in our minds we are just one. So we must show the world that separation is only in the mind, and we must not make separation from Parabrahma, the one supreme God, and separation from the natural world a reality. So what message Mata is giving us is, though in the human form we feel that we are separated from Parabrahma, the supreme God, the consciousness, but the separation from the natural world, do not think that is reality, because the actual reality is you are one with Supreme God. And that's what Mata is saying in the form of the separation between Sri Ram and her. She's saying, for naked eye, people might be seeing our physical separation, but actually we are one and the same. And at the same time, Mata is also giving us the message about, that there is no separation when we are born. We are one and the same with Parabrahma. Okay, if we think that physically we are separated and mentally we are separated from Parabrahma, that Parabrahma means the consciousness, the one and all. So that's when the downfall of humankind will start. And then she comes back to her story and says, it's Sri Ram cannot, because she says Sri Ram sent you away. She said it's not possible for him, because he's a man of dharma. And a husband who sends his wife away cannot live a life of dharma. So how can that be? Sri Ram is a man of dharma. And what is the essence of dharma? We have talked about it. The essence of dharma is love, because there is no dharma without love. So she says, Chandrika, don't worry. If somebody says to you, you don't have to respond, but that's not true. And then Mata says to Chandrika before she leaves, in the time to come, Chandrika, people will also say that Sita was a helpless victim and she was kidnapped by Ravana. Mata is talking about time to come. By the time Anasuya came, people were already talking. Mata was so true. So Mata is saying this to Chandrika. People will also say that Sita was a helpless victim. She was kidnapped by Ravana. And those who will say this, they do not know Sita, because I can never be helpless or a victim. Because what took place in Panchavati was my own choice. If I had not gone voluntarily to Lanka, The great war could not have taken place, because if Sita Ma did not go to Lanka, Sri Ram would not have a reason to go and have a battle against Ravana, because Sri Ram always says that without cause we cannot attack. So this was a cause for Sri Ram also to have a physical battle. So that's what Mata is saying. If I had not gone voluntarily into Sri Lanka, or sorry, into Lanka or into the demon realm, the yeah, into the demon realm or into the inner realm of Ravan, the great war could not have taken place, and the world would be still under threat. And Ravana, and we would not be able to free Vasundhara Ma from Ravana's negative energies, and neither would Ravana be free from his illusions. So she says to Chandrika, there is so much people do not know, and let it be that way. See, Mata is not saying go and beat your drum and tell everybody that I'm not helpless, I'm not a victim. She's saying it's okay, let it be that way, for such things are difficult to understand even for the sages. So you would think why it is difficult for sages to understand. So as we go forward, we will know, even though they may be great meditators, but unless they open up their wisdom, unless they open up their heart, it is so important. All the knowledge without love is useless. Mata will tell us in time ahead that knowledge without love does not give you what is required. So that's what she's saying, that, forget about normal people, Chandrika. These kind of things even sages can't understand. But Chandrika is so happy to hear what Mata has said, that, in time to come, Mata will be pictured as a helpless victim kidnapped by Ravana, but she knows that's not true. And imagine what would be the condition of Anasuya when she's hearing all this from Soma. She always knew Mata was not a helpless victim. And now Soma is confirming that through words of Mata. So a great relief came to Chandrika, and she was quite happy. She embraced Mata, and Mata says, go and be an example to the world. What a woman abandoned by her husband and society can achieve. Because we know what Chandrika went through. But today she has stood on her feet. She's opened up ashram. Great woman, great sage. And show the world how you brought your husband back to the path of dharma, so that he will never abandon a woman again. And this is what Ram and I request of you. So, and then many times, Soma says that once Soma sees Mata sitting alone and gazing in the stars, and she says that, I can feel the heart of Rama. He's longing for me. She says, there is no separation. There's no mental separation. There is no mind separation. But we have come in this human world to experience both its joy and pains. Though they are illusion, all this physical separation feeling is illusion. But at times they seem real, because even Sita Ma and Sri Ram, they are under the spell of Maya. And all material creation is under the spell of Maya. So even though we know what our true purpose is, this is Sita Ma saying, though we know there is no separation between us, but because Sri Ram and I have also come in human forms, so we are bound by the rules of material creation, and we also are under the spell of this Maya, which seems very real, isn't it? Friends, you and I know how real it feels. Though, we read books and we keep saying, oh, this is not true. We are not body form, we are energy form. How many times do we have to keep reinforcing? Because to us, this all seems quite real. And that is illusion. That is the Maya of the material creation. So Mata is saying, we have human bodies. I mean, Sri Ram and me, though we understand everything, we have human bodies. We have human minds. We have human feelings. So we have longing for each other. I can feel Sri Ram's longing. And, I have the children, I've got forest, I've got nature, I can be happy, but he has so much responsibilities. Who is there to take care of him? So Mata is just talking like a normal woman, how a woman would feel for her husband if husband was far away and she loved him, and husband had so many responsibilities. This is so beauty. This is the beauty of being born on earth. No matter who you are in your previous lives, doesn't matter. When you come back into this earth, you're bound by the rules of the earth, and you have to feel it. That's why time and again we have to remind ourselves we are not the body form, we are the energy form. So then Soma says, Mata, don't worry, because all his brothers are there, so you don't have to worry. Um, and then Soma tells, when the boys were around 6 years of age, Mata developed the habit of having them meditate for a few minutes before they went to bed. But she used to tell a story before they went to bed all the time. And by the time they became 6 years old, because they had two cottages right from the beginning, where Mata used to sleep in one and Soma in the other. Now, once when the children were young, Mata used to sleep with the children in one cottage and Soma in the other. But once the children started, growing older, Soma would take the children into her cottage, because Mata used to do a lot of meditation in the night. She didn't sleep much. So the little children were always with Soma. But before they went to bed, Mata always, made them sit for a few minutes in meditation, and then always told them stories. And they loved the stories of sages. So one night after meditation, Mata asked them, what story you want? And they both said, we want story about sage Anasuya and the river. She had told them that story so many times, but they loved it. So, my dear friends, many times in the past I said, when we go ahead in the story, I will be telling you about the story. So here we are, story of sage Anasuya. How great sage she is, because her husband herself, who is her husband? Sage Atri, said, my wife is the greatest sage of all times. So now we'll see what she did. So what happened once, when Sage Anasuya and her husband Sage Atri were looking for a quite isolated place to build their hermitage or ashram. Once they entered a very desolate forest, there wasn't anyone, it's quite barren. And when they looked around, the trees were dying, lack of water. There were no animals. Animals were fleeing away from their place. No humans in sight. And Sage Atri thought it's a perfect place to meditate, because no one is there to disturb them. But the lack of life, because there's no life around, it's barren. When there's no vegetation, obviously there won't be any life. And that made Sage Anasuya very sad. So one day when she was just walking in the forest, she came across a tiger, so thin, and there was no food, so very weak. And it was digging, its paws in the earth to get some water. And poor Anasuya is famous for her compassion and love. We've talked about it before. So her compassion was awakened, and she said, what happened to this forest? She can communicate with anyone. um, Mata told us how they communicate mental pictures. And so the tiger told her, the forest has been cursed, and there's been no rain for 10 years. And the tiger requests the sage, Anasuya, please help me. My family has lived here for generations, and now we don't want to flee. That's why we are here. But look at my condition. And Mata made a commitment promise to that tiger, saying, I will bring water. Once we get the water, life will come back to the forest. So for everything, you need water first. So that night, Sage Anasuya sat in meditation, and in that meditation, she traveled to celestial world. Celestial world is to the greater realms. And of course, the children would ask, Love asks her, where is the celestial world? Is it above the clouds? Because when we say celestial world, we always look up, isn't it? And what is up, sky and clouds? Obviously, children would ask that question. And then Mata says, put your hand on your heart, and the celestial world is inside you. Close your eyes and feel the world and see how beautiful it is. This is a very important message for us, masters, because whenever we talk about the upper realms, the divine realms, the greater realms, we're always looking up. I don't know for what reason, human mind has got this fixation that anything good has to happen above. But Mata so beautifully tells her son love that, put your hand on your heart and close your eyes. And this is where the celestial world is inside you, and see how beautiful it is. And continuing with the story, Mata says, Sage Anasuya went to the celestial world. That means the inner realms. That's what we always call the inner realms, inner worlds. Where is the inner worlds? Within you. So Sage Anasuya saw all the beauty and life in that celestial world. And when she was looking around, so beautiful, she saw this beautiful river, goddess is called. She came to a river, and all rivers have got their divinity, and She was called Mandakini river, so that she talked to the energy of the river, the goddess. And she says, you have to come to me, come with me to earth, help me restore that life in the forest. And she says, Mandakini river said, no way, what a desolate place you live in. You're asking me to come to that desolate place and leave this beautiful world. Why should I come? And she said, out of love, out of love for the trees, for the animals, they have no water, for the human, who depends on plant and animal, come for love. And the goddess, Mandakini river was very moved by how much love this woman has for the life. And she says, seeing your love, for you I will come. But my condition is, if you can replicate the beauty, whatever beauty you're seeing here, the beautiful vegetation and stuff, if you can replicate that, if you can bring life back to the forest, I will come and nourish it. How can she do it? Without water, how can you have vegetation? But this is like catch 22. Mandakini goddess says, you go bring all the life back in the forest, and then I'll come down. If you make it as beautiful as this celestial world, I'll come and nourish it. Sage Anusuya, she's a great sage, says, okay, she takes the challenge. She comes back and sits in a intense tapasya. Tapasya means penance. So, little children, they ask, what is tapasya? What is intense tapasya? Then, intense tapasya, Mata is so nicely, Mata explains, she's explaining to us also. Intense tapasya means long meditation, and it also involves sacrifice. They give up food, they give up sleep. There are many kinds of intense tapasyas, Mata says. And why? And Mata also explains why that is done. Why are they giving up food and sleep and other, lot of disciplines? It's only for one purpose, to strengthen the will. Unless you strengthen the will, you can't achieve anything. Mata explains so beautifully that there is more power contained in human will than all the power in the nature, all the power of Surya Dev, she's explaining. The children can see Surya, the sun god, how brilliant he is. So Mata is saying, if you think that is brilliant, then human will, human intention has got more power than that. But the problem is, we humans don't know how to use that power. I'm not saying it, this is Mata saying. So Mata is saying, very important point, my dear masters. Mata is saying that there is more power contained in the human will than anything, but we don't know how to use the power. It is locked inside of us. And this tapasya, this long penance, unlocks that power of the will. And it also strengthens devotion. Devotion means whatever you're doing, your faith in that, your faith. So first it unlocks your power of will, and it also strengthens devotion. So children always ask, when she's saying any human being, so then they are asking, do we also have that great power of will? And then Mata said, that was the gift given to all the human beings. But this is a gift humans are ignorant of. Aren't we ignorant? We don't even know, how much capacity we have, or how much intention, how much free will we have been given. So Mata is telling that time, saying, this gift of human will has been given to all, but human beings are ignorant. It takes practice and training to awaken the will. And how do you do? That is why we are doing meditation, my dear friends. If you want to awaken the will, you have to need practice and training. And Mata says, only the sages knew the secret of this, or know the secret of this. Why? Because sages are the people who are doing meditation and penance. So they know how to awaken their will. But normal man, ignorant, just living his mundane life. Oh my God, life is challenging, life is challenging. The whole life is going that way. If only every human being knew how to use that willpower, we would not feel that helpless. Such a great talk Mata is giving. And then Mata says, Sage Anusuya had tremendous power of will. And she awakened that power of will through many years of dedicated meditation. So what she did, there was a huge boulder behind her hermitage, which no normal person could climb, but she with her will, she climbed that boulder, sat in meditation for long time without food and sleep. Years passed by, and the devas, the devas, they were all, oh my God, look at her. But they did all sorts of tricks to disturb her meditation. Then children will ask, when she's doing such a great job, why are they disturbing her? See how children ask the right question, that why should they disturb her? She's only trying to help the world. Then Mata is explaining, they are only doing that by to test her willpower. Because she's trying to awaken her will, they want to test and see, how strong her willpower is. Because they don't know what great sage she is. They only know her as a human being. And we're sure that, that if we try to trick her, she can't withstand us. Let us see how great willpower she has. But when they tried to trick her, to disturb her, nothing, she did not budge. So, through the sheer power of her will, she could make the trees bloom, all that place that had become barren, just through her willpower. She kept strong willpower and she made all the trees bloom. And with life returning to the trees, obviously, if the trees are back, animals will return. But the only thing that was lacking was no water. So, but sage Anasuya had created on earth exactly the scene that she had experienced in the divine realms. So she returned back to Mandakini Devi and said, can you please come to earth now? Now that I have got the plants back, animals have revived, all we need is water to sustain them. And Mandakini goddess said, oh my God, after all these years, I thought you forgot. You thought, I thought you forgot the promise. But then when she saw what this great sage had created on earth, with her sheer power for years doing penance, she had created it, exactly a realm that she had created there. And she said, oh great sage, for you I will come. Because your love is so great that you have sacrificed greatly for the welfare of the world. You have done so much for the world. Of course I will come. And Sita Mata says that Sri Ram and I visited. It's saying to children, this is a story to love and Kush, that Sri Ram and Sita Ma visited Sage Anasuya and Sage Atri at their ashram during their exile and when they reached Chitrakoot. And Sita Ma says that it's really beautiful what she has created. It's like a celestial world. She says in Chitrakoot, the river is as clear as crystal, Mandakini river, and is abundant with fish, turtles, frogs, croaking, the whole. And Mata says beautiful swans she could see in the river, and the peacocks were everywhere in the forest. Everywhere she could see that day, it was abundance of plant and animal life. And lot of human beings are residing there. And Mata says to Love and Kush, this was all accomplished through the power of will and love. So two things. One is love for the world, because she had so much love for that. It all started with talking to the tiger. And then she has so much love. Because of love, she created that. And then, how could she create that? Through willpower. So two important things here we have to understand. Her love and her power of will, which made this happen. And Mata says, never forget the love that Sage Anasuya showers upon the world. She says, even now, the world is only happy because of Sage Anasuya, always showering so much love upon her. So children are saying, will we meet her one day? And Mata says quietly, yes, I hope so. I definitely want to meet you, Ma Anasuya, before I leave this earth. And as Mata says that, Soma says, she felt a gentle breeze that just went past by. And in that gentle breeze, she could hear the words of Sage Anasuya saying, and so you will, my dear child. So beautiful. And just now when we were talking about how with sheer will you can create things. I mean, you have seen a large scale creation here by Sage Anasuya, where a barren land, she has brought life back. She has brought the plants back, the animals back, and now she needed water for sustenance. Do not take this as just a story. Do not think that, this only happens in Treta Yuga. It does not happen in Dwapar Yuga or Kali Yuga. This can happen in any Yuga, my dear masters, because that will that Sita Ma talked about, that was there in the human being, is still there even today. It's just that we don't realize it. Again, I'm giving the example of Anastasia because these days I'm reading Anastasia. And in one of the volumes that I just finished, which was volume number 4, Co-Creation, in that book, it is so beautiful in one of the chapters towards the end, where they talk about the school, what kind of school, what kind of education should children have. There's one incident where a child, through sheer intent and willpower, she brings a pot which has got a plant and she puts it in front of her. And then through her willpower, she's trying to make the flower blossom. When does a flower blossom, my dear friends? With the energy of the sun. You always see in the morning when the sun comes up, slowly with that energy, the flower opens. So that little child, in the evening when there is no sun, she brings that pot, puts it on the table, and with her intent, willpower, she's trying to give that energy to the flower to blossom. And in that incident, when she starts and her energy is not enough, all her friends, they join her, trying to give that strength to her willpower. And finally, the flower blossoms. And this story of Anastasia that I'm telling you is not in Treta Yuga or Dwapar Yuga. This is a story of the current times. Vladimir Megre, who wrote this story, is talking about the story in the last 20, 30 years or last 10, 15 years. So do not think that what Sita Ma told about sheer will can only be happening in Satya Yuga or Dwapar Yuga, because only people then had sheer willpower. No, my dear friends. That's why I'm quoting this example of Anastasia, because it doesn't matter which time, human beings are still the same. The problem is whether you acknowledge, you realize or not. That is the question. And sages, they realize even now, great meditators realize even now. So all the more, meditate more to understand what your willpower is and how to awaken it, dear masters. With that, I'm going to close today's episode, and we will get back again very soon with the next episode. Thank you very much. Namaste.